Good morning. Let me get the lights up on here. Good morning. It's been a minute, right? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 7th. We are back at it. Get into it. I'm going to give you guys a chance to get back at it and get to it. I'm Jackie Glass Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates 89th District. Again, honored to serve. There's a lot to go through, a lot coming up. We're back from last week's session, which was wild. Back from a week of, I'll put vacation in quotes because that's not real. Back from all the things trying to pull it together, but grateful to be here amongst yous alls. So let's just get to it, if I may. So I got a laundry list of things here to sort of walk us through. Good morning. Good morning. I do have a laundry list of things that I want to walk us through, but I know it's been a week and a half since the last live we've done. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, do not hesitate to put them in the chat. Put them in the chat because that's what this is for. This is your time, not my time, but I'm going to try to put the information that I know out there. We are scheduled for I think a town hall on the 14th. I will make sure. Several things are going to happen over the coming weeks, right? So now that we're done with the General Assembly for now, we will reconvene. And what I mean by reconvene is I have to go back to Richmond April. I think it's April 12th. Have to go back to Richmond for a day where we'll go through all of the bills that the governor has vetoed or not vetoed. So that's what's happening right now. The governor is reviewing all the legislation that we passed in the General Assembly. He has the opportunity to do several things. He'll either change that stuff, veto that stuff, or pass it. Okay, so those are the three actions that'll happen, and we'll deal with those actions in April 12th. But in the interim, I think it's really important to say, like, thank you all for just staying on top of things, just being a part of this process. It's been a long one. This session was a bit busier, right? Because it was shorter and there was a lot of things going through. But there's still an opportunity as we start building for what is next. And let me just manage expectations for what is next. So now that we're out of session, over the coming weeks, our team will be doing several things. We'll be getting petitions to get on the ballot. So that's a huge piece, right? I have to run again every other year. In the House, we are running for reelection. Every odd year, let's just put it that way, we are running for reelection. So I'll be getting signatures, which I have to have those done by the end of the month. We will be doing redistricting town halls for you all in April. And then we'll be doing our regular town halls and then like campaigning and doing all the things. And we're going to do things a bit different. So I'm excited to bring you guys in on campaigning by doing the work in the 21st century, right? This isn't just about getting to your door. It's about adding value to communities. And we've got a really robust plan to allow you all to engage in the non-traditional campaigning sort of way, because I think something has got to give. If we're not changing the electoral process, which I think we need to do. So we got to change the way we do it by making folks work. And I firmly believe because of you all, I see the way people are working in Hampton Roads. We're making them step their game up, as we should, right? Like, and I'm really grateful to see we deserve that. You deserve to have legislators that are working for you, that are communicating with you, and not just during campaign time. So like, shout out to the legislators stepping it up as you should be, right? Everyone should be, and we're grateful for that. Good morning, Ms. Shar. Thank you. Thank you. I try not to do much. Yes, yesterday was my birthday. I don't really, make a big deal out of it, but I receive it. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Okay, so couple things. let me start with some of the most hard hitting things and then work my way back to some of the things that I know that I'm going to need you guys to start looking forward to. So this past week, I don't know if you know it, the director of the FBI came down and spoke to some of the task force that we have here and was a part of the citizen FBI class, alumni class, sort of. I think he spoke at that, but there were some key things that I think we all need to know that the FBI is involved in or is a piece of, and our office is going to be trying to see how we can get them more involved in some of the work that we have been doing and been trying to do. So they work with our violent crime, like violent crime task force is a big deal with the FBI. And let me make sure that I pull this up. Good morning, Brandon. Thank you, Mr. Little. Thank you, Mr. Steve. I said we still got to connect. So part of it is he came out and he talked about the partnership between our local task force and the big task force, right? The big DC task force. And pieces of that, right? Some of the biggest pieces of that is, again, violent crime, gang related activity, as well as human trafficking. And one thing he did say is that's an area that is up in this area that has been up and continuously going up. And we know this is not news to us. But what I will say is, as we begin to start addressing some of the things that we're seeing locally, right? Like I get it. I hear the reports about the gun violence. I hear about the gang activity, and we are not helpless, but we also can be helpful, right? Like even though sometimes it feels like, where do I fit? How do I just want it to stop? And I know that you guys are like me, where it's like I don't want to hear. Like I want better solutions, and I think there are some things. Some things that are transpiring that are good for us, but we do need to use the resources out in front of us, and that's going to be some questions that we'll be asking about the correlation and the stats, the data, so we can see what's happening between our local task force on some of this crime and the FBI, and what support is being lended and what support isn't. Who are they actually helping to catch, and where do you fit in? And maybe some of you want to join the citizen FBI, almost like the goodness, I can't think the Citizens Police Academy. Maybe there's some ways for some of us to get more involved, and that's the opportunities that we're looking for you all. Is what are the ways you can get engaged and be informative, not only to yourself and your community, but to us en masse, right? To us as your legislators, as this is what we're seeing and this is what's working. Here's how we support. What I did read over the past week is that, for that crime with the 6-year-old in Newport News, like everybody's using that as an example. This 6-year-old went to school with a gun and X, Y, and Z. Can you turn that down, sir? And there was no crime, that the gun was locked up. There were all these things. Well, Newport News Police has decided to charge the mother. The mother is being charged with the delinquency of the minor and allowing access to a loaded firearm. To a loaded firearm to a minor. Right? Am I saying that right? Yep. To a minor. And that got me thinking really about how we do or don't prosecute crimes. And as we look at some of these instances of where we've seen access, where we've seen access to firearms, especially in the hands of our youth, because I did receive a text message yesterday about Norview, or the day before about Norview, about young people texting back and forth on the internet with 50 round bags, just like I'm about to slide on somebody. That's real. And fortunately, right, there's some great fortunes and misfortunes in this, is that they are very willing to broadcast what they're doing on social media. They're very willing to broadcast that to their friends preemptively, and that has allowed us to mitigate some of the things that we're seeing, or also be prepared. That doesn't take what's in our hearts and what's in our stomachs and what's our heads in sending our little citizens to school, or out in the community. I know that does not mitigate that fear, but what it does do is allow us some chance to intervene or to prepare. But what are the consequences for these sorts of things? And I'm not saying we should just go start charging parents left and right. There are some cases where I do absolutely believe across the country where we've seen that the parents as gun owners are responsible. I say this as a gun owner myself. I don't keep count, but I know that the guns that I do have in my household, that I am responsible for them. And should either of my little citizens get their hands on them, that's on me. That's on me. That's on my spouse, right? We did pass legislation that allows for a tax credit for gun safety measures, right? Up to $300 across the Commonwealth, with the maximum, I think the first year of like $1 million in tax. It's a non-refundable tax credit for getting gun safety measures. So whether that's locks, safes, or whatever, up to $300. It's a start somewhere. It's unfortunate that we have to incentivize it that way, because it should just be the right thing to do. I am out of the business of saying this is common sense. This is common sense. It's not common sense. It's responsible, right? And so how do we get people to continue to do the I don't believe that we should have to incentivize a privilege like that in that way. But we're doing it, and we're trying to find ways to hold people accountable and to push them to do the responsible things, right? I'm not going to say the right thing, because we can debate on what the right or the wrong thing is here, but the responsible thing. And we'll see how that goes. So, these opportunities are only so good as we use them. So if you are a person, a gun owner, and you got your gun around and you don't have a lock on it, go ahead and purchase that lock, and you can claim it on your taxes starting, I think it runs from 2023 to 2027. That legislation brought to us by Delegate Lopez, one of my Democratic colleagues. All right, so there's that chunk. We've got opportunities to intervene, to sort of chop it up. I hope that you all make it to some of these town halls so that we can elaborate and talk a little bit more on these things, because I know that we're going to need a town hall specifically for the so what, now what with gun ownership, gun responsibility, and our youth here in the Commonwealth, okay? Or here in our own backyard. I'm going to shift up a bit. These are two things that, as we talk about schools and the way people do business and how we take charge or mitigate, I keep using that, how we ensure that our littlest citizens are going to a place where, there's not a pit in your stomach. Both of my little citizens are getting ready for school. You can probably see them. One's out the door, one's getting ready. And I have that fear in my heart. So this piece of the consequences for gun owners and getting them in the hands of minors that happen some way, somehow, is going to be a very integral part of what we do over the coming year. But then we take it to, at some point, our little citizens go off to college, and not only do we want them to be safe, we want to ensure that they have a quality, robust education. What we've seen over the past year has been a weaponizing of Board of Visitors. And I would love it if you guys know what a Board of Visitors is for colleges. Put it in chat. Do you know what is a Board of Visitors? Let me take the banner off here for a second. What is a Board of Visitors? Let's see. What is it? Who knows what the Board of Visitors is? Oh, lost my little. Good morning, Ronald. Good morning. What is a Board of Visitors? Because this is, if you don't know, it's going to be one of those, if you don't know, now you know. Biggie or Kirk Franklin style, however you want to have it. A Board of Visitors, because Board of Visitors are super important when we talk about our higher learning institutions. And so I don't have anybody in the chat saying what. Let's see, do we have anybody similar to a Board of Directors? Miss Shar, here she put that. Yep, similar to a board of directors. Absolutely, Ms. Shar. Very comparable to a board of directors, and why they play such an integral part of of governing and our fiduciary responsibilities as at our higher institutions is super important, right? So these board, the institutions, you may heard them as board of trustees, as board of visitors, regents, governors, fellows, supervisors, overseers. They govern by making decisions about the institutional plans, about the programs, about the budgets, about the policies, the risk management, and certain employee matters as recommended by the administration. And they have the authority sometimes to hire and fire the president or chancellor, right? While they do provide this governing piece, it's not the day-to-day managing of the operations. That is on the administration. But it's that boundary between the faculty, the administration, and the faculty, and they ensure like things are meeting standards, and but they don't dictate the content. The faculty makes those decisions. For us here in the Commonwealth, our board of visitors are selected by our governors, right? So our governor is the one who selects these people, who makes recommendations, and then we as the legislator, we vote on them. We an institution, that school, whether it's UVA or William and Mary or ODU, whatever, they can advocate for prospective board members, but that appointment process goes through the executive branch down to the legislative branch for approval. Yep. So what did she say? Thank you, Ms. Shar. You said responsible for everything regarding, yeah, right? Here's what's happening, and I need us to be aware because this is something I'm processing. I'm processing it out loud with you because I think that we are going to have to take some steps. Currently, our governor is weaponizing those boards of visitors with how our institutions operate. If you may know, there's a guy named Bert Ellis. He's the gentleman that he's the man that owns WebMD. He's the guy that went to the UVA students' room with the box cutter. They found out he went through, got his. We're going to talk about FOIA in a second. Freedom of Information Act. Found some of the text message he was saying how they're going to get rid of folks because of their woke history, and there's going to be a battle royale, and they're going to essentially mess with the dynamics of the university, right? Because they believe that it needs to be more Jeffersonian, and that's the only way I can put as they want to wash everything, right? Wash the way that we are more accepting, wash the way that we teach history, right? Get rid of all the dirty parts, right? And make sure that there's as little as a stain there as possible. This is also happening on other boards of visitors, which can be disruptive to universities. If you don't agree with the student newspaper, or just weaponizing their positions. And we've seen this across the Commonwealth. It's going to be really important, because what I was very upset about is I don't know all these people, right? I also don't want to be voting for classist, racist, sexist, homophobic people to be a part of these boards. When we get these recommendations, it's a long list. It goes to the Senate first. And because I'm on privileges and elections, I get to see this list not before when everybody else sees it, but I vote on it first. And so there's a long list of names for who is being selected for what. These are everyday citizens, everyday residents that are, and I want to pull this up for you all. Everyday residents that are essentially, a lot of times it's money people. Sometimes it's just people that have been really great advocates for the institution, but they have the ability to do good things for our institution, our schools, or bad things. However, when they take on these positions, you take on the position almost the same way that I take on the position as an elected official, right? All of my work, all of the things I do become FOIA-able, and that is the Freedom of Information Act. And that's going to be something that we're going to need that we're going to need to hold on to here as we move through. So let me pull this up for you so you guys get to see exactly what I see, right? Let me see if I can get it up, get it going here. Some bills here, just trying to pull up so you guys can see what I actually see when I'm looking at these when I'm looking at the committees and trying to figure out what yep, here we are. So I'm going to share my screen here for a second. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see. Share screen. You can see what I see. All right, so this is what I get. So Senator Spool is the head of the chairperson for the Privileges and Elections Committee on the Senate side. So typically he's the one, he or she, whomever that chair is going to carry this bill, this joint resolution or this Senate resolution. And it's governors confirming appointments, right? This is what comes up, right? And I'm going to open up this PDF so you can see how I see. This is what it looks like, right? So for the State Board of Elections there, you'll see these are the three people, someone from Henrico, one from Augusta County, from Arlington, and Agriculture Board, authorities, Commerce and Trade, Independent Labor, like it's not, these are the folks that we are voting on when appointments come open. And that's, I do need us to consider what it looks like or what it could look like to be on a state board or commission. And I know there's a privilege of time there, but some of us have it, right? And some of us, and I'd love to know in the chat, have you served on a state? Have any of you all ever served on a state? Hold on, let me get back here. Let me stop sharing. Have any of you all served on a state board or commission before? I would love to know. Or have you ever, whether it's state or local, because the local boards and commission are equally as important. It is so important to get you all on these boards and commission, but these people are making decisions and liaisoning with us on how we make policy and do different things. But as I said, when you get in those positions, you become like an elected official. So you are open to FOIA. So when this man's emails or text messages about UVA, about the Board of Visitors or anything like that became public, it was a little salty because it's like, y'all can't Freedom of Information Act my stuff. Well, yes, you can. You all have that power too. The biggest struggle that we have with FOIA requests is some entities, and I had it with the city of Norfolk. I asked for something and then they charged me like $200 for the thing that I asked for, or you ask for something and they highly redact it. By redact, I mean they put the black mark on it saying you can only, like, this is confidential, this is confidential, this is confidential. However, I know over the coming year, we're going to have to learn about FOIA as a community, the responsibility our government and entities have to us with FOIA, and then how we can use that to advance the things that we would like to see happen. Freedom of Information Act, the Freedom of Information Act. We get a lot of bills that where we're talking about FOIA responsibilities. It's how we get information on what's happening in the police department, right? Like someone's like, hey, I'm going to FOIA the information about this past shooting. I think there was an oversight organization in Richmond that put a Freedom of Information Act on the Richmond police to just know what their policies were for a specific, their sort of general orders policy. And they charged them $7,000, where many departments have those already as publicly accessible. So I love this. Ms. Shar, you said you've been on the Virginia Department of Special Education Committee. That is amazing. And you've also been on the Hampton Roads Action Program Board of Directors. Yes, there are so many entry points, right? I had a mom ask me the other day, hey, how do I get involved? I've been advocating for my kid with their IEP, with them getting the things that they need. And I know that I'm a rock star. Well, she didn't say this. I'm calling her a rock star. I'm a rock star with taking care and advocating for my kid. But what about the parents who don't have the bandwidth that I have? How do I show up and be a voice? These are pieces, whether it's in the education system, whether it's in the, whether it's via the school board or the city council, but getting yourself and interjecting yourself in these policy groups that are guiding the policymakers is important. But accountability is also important, y'all. Accountability is also important for these public bodies. Very proud of one of our colleagues that has taken on an issue because of some FOIA request and because of the things that we've seen happening with the railroads. I don't know if y'all know this, but I saw somebody out there was like, I need Norfolk Southern to take Norfolk off their name because we're in the news so much. But part of what a delegate out in, I believe she's in Newport News, Delia Simons, she brought forth legislation, right, based off things that we were finding out from folks that were advocates, most of the people that are part of those boards and those groups that help us have a best understanding what's going on, because we don't know everything. Let me just say that. We don't know everything. But this legislation brief she brought forth was making sure that trains, one, have two people, a two-person crew. I don't know if you know, sometimes these trains have more than just have one person operating them. She said so that the maximum length of a train was 1.5 miles, I think 8,500 feet. If you've ever been stuck at a train light and at a train crossing, and it's gone more than, I think it's supposed to be 5 minutes. Don't quote me on that. There's a certain length that if it goes any long, if they block or stop for longer than a certain amount of time, then there's a fine they have to pay. And a lot of times the train companies have decided that it's more beneficial to stack those trains miles and miles long and pay that fine than to do the right thing. Yeah, and there's one other piece. I just can't remember. There's three parts of that bill, but this is how we advance policy, right? Yeah. So yes, we know Norfolk Southern has moved to. We absolutely know that, right? It has moved to Atlanta and has been there for quite a bit of time. However, I know some of our citizens here don't want the name on it. they want to get with the derailments and the things that happen are like, look, we don't want it, but it's a company name. As I told you guys, it's a company name, but the work is still here. There's still a great deal of work that is here, and movement of trains here in the city of Norfolk and across the Eastern Seaboard. So as we look at how we do better, I know that I've gotten so many, I'm looking at over in the Ward's Corner area where they say that train stops forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. In my neighborhood, there are 4 crossings back to back to back to each other. So, sometimes at 2 a.m. you hear the two blows for each section. So you're getting that 6 blows that folks are, yes, there's still business here. There's still opportunities to liaison and do to do the right things. All right. So I'm getting ready to wrap up. It's becoming a real problem here in Norfolk as I've been stopped several times, different streets. Yeah, we are a port city. And I'll leave that up for a second. We are a port city. So we've got a lot of action, whether it's from things coming from the boat to the train to the truck, or from the truck to the train to the boat, or from the boat to the truck to the train. However, right, it is a huge economic driver here, but I also think that there's a part, and I've had this conversation with the ports about how they can be better neighbors, especially when it comes to infrastructure and other things. I love this. Vernon says, Collie and Monticello, they are your friends. Right. You got to know where the underpasses are, but you got to see it. Listen, but you kind of got to be magical, Vernon, and see it out ahead so that you know to bust that turn, bust that right or that left to go under the viaduct for sure. For sure. It's a thing here, right? And that's okay. I just don't want, what I want you guys to understand is when you come to us with these issues, big and small, and that's relative. Who gets to decide what is big? What may be big to you may seem small to me, but if it's small, that means I can take that step. And what may be big to me may seem small to you. So then you can help me take that step because maybe you see a better way to get to a solution. What I am saying is that there are an abundant amount of things that cross our radar, and there's an abundant amount of ways that we can be helpful, that we always in this office will try to exhaust our resources to get to the point to where we can't move anymore or where we have to do the warm handoff. Knowing these things where we interject, whether it's with the trains, it's with guns in schools, it's with the board of visitors or otherwise, knowing where we fit comes in being a more expansive community. We're a more expansive community of networks, right? So you got a piece of a pie, somebody else got a piece of pie, and then we connect and we're able to sort of get a bigger picture or a better picture or even just knowledge. Because sometimes I have no idea that something has happened or is happening. I don't know. So I say that's why we do these early mornings. This is why I'm going to go ahead and put this banner up for why we have the website where you can go to and let us know what's happening. You can always email us at deljglass@house.virginia.gov. I think I have that up here. I just want to see if I try to make sure that I have that as well. But there are very many ways for us to intersect because we can't possibly know all the problems. We can't possibly have all the solutions, but again, we can be a network to figure out how to have a better picture of the problems to walk closer to solutions or to, again, because sometimes there have been cases where I have not been able to find a solution and we're still walking towards whatever that looks like. But we will exhaust our resources. Ms. Charlene asks, how can we help our children recognize the consequences for bringing weapons to school? Need a broader communication and consequences for punishment. I don't disagree. And I don't know. And I'm saying this as, just from my heart and mind. I think we can make them aware and recognize the consequences, but I don't think the groups that are doing this actually care. And so there is a piece of the number of guns, the access to guns that I think we walk to. Again, that I say, like, as a parent, I have, if one of these glass kids ends up with a gun in their hands that came from the glass household, my husband and I should be held accountable. Period. Like we should be. Because there's multiple layers to being able to get access, right? Whether it's in a safe with a safety lock on it, right? Whatever that is, we're the owners, right? And I can't, let me not say I can't. I want to get to a place where we can have the conversation and pass the laws that allow for responsible gun ownership, because common sense isn't working, right? So like that mom being charged with delinquency of a minor and for allowing access to a loaded, oh, hey girl. Okay, yep. Allowing access to a loaded firearm to her child. Yes. Unfortunately, yes. We have to be held accountable. But it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's a lot. Let me not say but, and it's a lot. But I think that as this generation grows, you all, they're not going to take our mess. They're not going to be having it because they've been in spaces where the gun has shown up. They know people that have been affected by it. And we are not doing it vicariously because I deal with it in my own neighborhood. But like, I think their tolerance level for blowing smoke is going to slowly but surely deteriorate. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being on the hip, standing behind, providing guidance and receiving guidance as we move forward with a society that has different lived experiences. Okay. So until next time, yep. I agree with you. They need to know and believe they'll be punished. I agree with you, Ms. Shar. I just don't know that that faction of them care about the punishment, about the consequence. I think, yeah, I just think that there's a switch that has been hit, and I don't know whether it's the effect of COVID or generational leadership, right? Us, the way we lead, have been leading our little citizens, whatever it is. Um, there's facts and that just don't, they don't care. It's not no any other way to put it. But we'll work on. We're tasked. There's a level of responsibility that I have as your elected official to can actually as your neighbor, as a community member, to be actively engaged um in finding ways, and also conveying the consequences to, whether they like them or not, right? Whether they adhere to them or not, making sure that they're known. Because ignorance is not the best excuse. But we don't want it to be one of the things that ignorance can be claimed, especially when it comes to consequence. Okay, so I will see y'all Thursday, right? This Thursday we shall do this again, same time, same bad channel. So to 1 hour before he understood. Yeah, it took an hour before he understood. Yeah. I hear you, and you're with the young people. Yep. It's work. I'm not difficult. It's not impossible. I believe that, right? We have a difficult task, but it's not impossible. You all, yes, be blessed. You guys make it a great day. I will see you on Tuesday at 6:30 in the morning, and hopefully to Thursday. I keep saying Tuesday. Thursday, I'll be able to give you the rundown of all the events and things that we have coming up. See you, James. Thank you guys for being here this morning. You too. Have a blessed day. Be well. Vernon, don't forget that we got underpasses. Know the cheat codes around the city. All right. Be well, y'all. Make it a great day. Bye-bye.